Assistant Minister of Commerce, Mr. Ren Hongbin, and Deputy Governor of the People's Bank of China, Mr. Chen Yulu. They will brief you on the implementation of General Secretary's instructions and the CPC Central Committee's instructions and take your questions. I will now give the floor to Mr. Cong Liang.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media. Well, a lot of attention is being paid to the impact of COVID-19 to social and economic development. The party leadership and the State Council give top priority to containment and social and economic development. General Secretary Xi Jinping personally oversees and guides the work and convened and presided over many meetings, heard report and made important instructions, stressing the need to coordinate social and economic development and containment to attain this year's economic and social development targets, to complete the building of a society of moderate prosperity, poverty elimination, and the 13th five-year plan. Premier Li chaired multiple State Council meetings. While stressing the need to advancing control of the epidemic, it is important to coordinate various tasks of social and economic development to maintain social and economic performance. The State Council Interagency Task Force also convened many meetings. Right now, the NDRC is working with relevant agencies to step up epidemic control and is directing localities to promote social and economic development in light of the epidemic control, to promote resumption of production and work in a category-based and orderly manner to ensure supply of key materials. Right now, good progress has been made in the resumption of work. Large enterprises are doing better than smaller and medium-sized companies. Upstream and capital and technological intensive businesses are doing better vis-a-vis lower stream and labor-intensive companies. More and more large companies in the industry sector is rising, over 90% in Zhejiang and over 70% in Jiangsu, Shandong, Fujian, Liaoning, Guangdong, and Jiangxi. Sector-wise, 67.4% in steel sector, 86.3% in non-ferrous metal sector. In particular, good progress is being made in areas concerning people's livelihood. Relevant enterprises are racing against time to produce more materials. Utilization rate of production capacity of masks has reached 110.3% and over 70% in emergency green processing capacity, 76% in coal production, and 90% of the railway carriages are loaded. Civil aviation, ports, shipping operations are well underway. However, this epidemic is indeed having big impact to our economy. In terms of the holiday consumption during the Spring Festival, services sector, to delayed consumption and consumption of work and businesses. Some businesses, in particular small and SMEs, are encountering major difficulties. Based on the Central Party and State Council instructions, localities and departments have introduced strong measures. For example, cut energy cost, set aside 300 billion RMB yuan to provide low-interest loan to key companies, and provisional reduction and exemption of corporate contribution to social insurance and medical insurance, and deferral of payment to the house provident housing, and the reduction of VAT and income tax. Well, the impact is short-term. It is controllable. It will not change the long-term fundamentals of the Chinese economy. With our efforts, with the right policy and measures, we have the confidence, capability, and condition to minimize the impact and maintain healthy and steady development of the society and the economy. Going forward, the NDRC will follow through on the instructions of the central leadership. We'll continue to work with other agencies to step up control of the epidemic and promote orderly resumption and region-based resumption of work and business so that we'll have smooth movement of people, logistics, and capital. First, we will step up macro policy adjustment. We will follow through on the decisions made at the Central Conference to apply proactive fiscal policy and to make stable currency policy more flexible and appropriate, and to introduce more targeted tax and fee reduction to help SMEs expand effective domestic demand and to release consumer demand, leverage effective investment to ensure labor, land, and capital, and accelerate ongoing and newly started projects. We will ensure stability in 6 aspects. Second, we will implement the contingency plan that are in place to assist key industries and SMEs implement the fee and tax reduction, financial services, rent cut, and subsidies on employment. We will coordinate essential goods supply and production to ensure people's livelihood. We will intensify agricultural production in the spring season and to meet the target of poverty reduction and to stabilize employment, to ensure the daily protective materials for businesses who have restarted their work. Third, to address shortcomings and weaknesses. This epidemic has revealed some weaknesses and deficiencies in certain areas. We must draw lessons and take stronger measures in a more targeted way to address those shortages and weaknesses. This will expand domestic demand, promote development, create more opportunities and driving forces. More importantly, it will lay down a good, solid foundation for the sustainable development of our society and the economy. At the same time, we will closely monitor the economic performance and study and introduce relevant policies and contingency plans. In light of the changing situation, we will introduce more policies to ensure continued stable economic and social development. Now the floor is open. Please identify your media affiliation before raising your questions. Thank you.
CCTV. Recently, Premier Li Keqiang asked an expansion of production capacity for masks so that there will be a daily production capacity of over 100 million. What measures will be taken to expand such production? And what about the resumption of work for the production of key medical supplies?
Thank you for the question. Since the outbreak, the party leadership and the State Council attach great importance to the supply of materials.
President, the MIIT is the agency in charge of medical supplies. We have worked with relevant agencies under the task force to take various measures. We convened several meetings, in particular for the provision of medical supplies. In terms of the medical supplies for protection, disinfection, testing, drugs and equipment, these 5 categories of products, their production has been resumed. And also, we have also ensured the guarantee of the production factors for those companies producing the upstream raw materials. Thanks to the concerted efforts of all agencies and localities, the resumption rate is quite high. For the 5 categories, the production capacity utilization rate has been beyond 100%. So protection goes along with production. We have provided key medical supplies to frontline workers in Hubei. I'll give you a few numbers. For example, the medical protective suits, the daily capacity was less than 10,000 on the 28th of January, but now it has reached over 200,000 per day. There were only less than 20 producers, but now there are over 50 producers, and about 100 are now in the process of getting their permits, and they will start production soon. We have provided over 2 million protective suits to Hubei, meeting the demands in Hubei, but also in Beijing and other areas that are hard hit by the epidemic. I think Mr. Cong Liang will talk about the production of masks. Overall, the situation is good. The separation gowns are also produced at a large amount. We are providing over 700,000 gowns every day to Hubei. And in terms of disinfection products, the resumption of work rate has reached over 80%. The 84 disinfectant, hand sanitizers, and medical use alcohol and other disinfectant products have already been able to meet the demands across the nation. We have shipped over 80 million tons of 84 disinfectant to Hubei and more hand sanitizers, and we are organizing e-commerce platforms and producers to match their supply and demand, and will provide more disinfectants through various platforms so as to meet the demand generated by the resumption of work and production. There are 10 categories of medical equipment because there is a large amount of severe cases, which include we need monitoring systems and ventilators. And all these products, we are able to meet the demands on the front lines. We have shipped over 10,000 monitoring systems. All these products have played an important role in treating the patients on the front lines, but we know that the epidemic is still at a crucial stage. We still face a daunting task in ensuring medical supplies, and we must increase the provision of good quality medical supplies. We will work in coordination with other agencies to continue to guarantee the supplies and also the synchronized resumption of work of the full industrial chain to meet the demands on the front lines in Hubei and also in Beijing and other areas across the nation so as to win this battle against the epidemic. Thank you.
I will add something about the production of masks. Premier Li inspected mask-producing company. He stressed that masks are medical workers' weapon against the epidemic, shield for the people to protect their health, and strong safeguard for companies to resume their production. Based on the overall plan, in recent times, the NDRC has been working with the relevant departments to ensure the supply and production of masks. Since February the 1st, we have been helping producers to address their shortages in labor, capital, and raw materials so that there will be enough supply. There are two stages. First stage, in order to fight the epidemic and protect the frontline medical workers, the priority was to expand the production of N95 respirators. In this area, by February the 22nd, the daily production was 920,000 masks, 8.6 times that of February the 1st, when the production was 100,000. Since February, based on national deployment, 3.3 million masks were allocated from nationwide to Hubei and Wuhan, and Beijing and other localities where there is no production capacity for N95. 2.68 million masks were allocated to Hubei and Wuhan. The daily deployment rate quantity is 150. So, plus local production, every day the daily provision is over 300,000 that are able to meet with the need of over 60,000 medical workers. In recent period of time, there has been a surge in the demand for masks as business restarts. So in three aspects, we are doing our best to ensure sufficient supply. First is to promote full capacity production, to urge producers to resume production across the board and to meet their demand for labor, capital, logistics, and key raw and auxiliary materials. We guide companies to step up their self-protection and ensure the safety of workplace and quality of their product. Second, to expand production. Since February, we have launched a special campaign on the expansion of production. Three groups of businesses have added new capacities, have shifted their existing capacity to produce masks. Going forward, based on the need of epidemic control, we will continue to provide stronger policy support. Third is to ensure coordinated operation of full industrial chains, from the raw materials, including the melt-blown, non-woven fabric and masks, machine and spare parts. We will ensure the provision of key materials. Well, currently, except for Tibet, 30 provinces and regions have added new production lines for masks, and more are in the pipeline. By February the 22nd, the daily production reached 54.77 million, up by 2.8 times. Then February the 1st. For the past nearly 20 days, the total production is 570 million masks. We are confident that with all parties working together, we will continue to increase the production of masks to better meet the need of a resumption of work and business. Thank you.
Nikkei. The Central Economic Work Conference last December decided on the target for the 2020 economic development. Will this target be changed, revised because of the epidemic?
Thank you for the question. Well, this year we will build the society of initial prosperity and will complete the 13th five-year plan period. During last year's Central Conference, focused on the completion of this goal, has identified the target for this year's economic and social development. In terms of new development philosophy, the three critical battles, livelihood, fiscal and monetary policy projections, high-quality development, deepening economic structure, overall plan has been made. There are some impacts of this epidemic to China's economy. However, in terms of meeting the various social and economic development targets set out during the conference, there are a number of or many favorable conditions. First, the trend of long-term growth of the Chinese economy has remained unchanged. As the second largest economy, the impact is gradual and short-term. For example, consumption is not going away, but it is delayed and pent up, and they will be released with the over of the epidemic. In 2003, in May, the total social retail sale was 4.3%. It surged to 9.8% in July. In addition, some industries are doing better. Online shopping, long-distance learning, teleworking, online entertainment, and artificial intelligence are bucking the trend. This all shows the strong resilience and potential of the Chinese economy. Second, contingency plans are working effectively to cushion the impact. According to the central leadership and state council's decisions, relevant authorities and localities have introduced a number of policies to maintain stability in 6 areas. And recently, a lot of more effective and strong measures are introduced, including orderly resumption of work and production, tax and fee cut, financial services, rent reduction, and employment allowances. With these measures, we believe that the difficulties in the economic performance, in particular those for SMEs, will be addressed. Third, normal production and operation order is being resumed. While containing the epidemic, we are taking science-based and targeted measure based on different levels of risks, from low to high, and take differentiated approaches to promote resumption of work and and production. We will address transportation choke points. In low-risk areas, we lift all the restrictions on traffic. We coordinate the resumption of work in upper and lower stream in a coordinated way, and we promote the simultaneous resumption of work in sectors including medical supply, essential goods supply, logistics, and other key areas, so to ensure normal operation of industrial chain. Policy need to be a step ahead of the difficulties. We address the difficulties facing businesses, including labor capital, raw materials, and we have stepping up assistance to key industries and SMEs so that businesses can stay afloat while fighting the disease, and the economy will continue to operate well. Fourth, we have enough development potential and policy reserve. As I mentioned, there are a lot of weaknesses exposed in this epidemic. For example, social governance, public health facilities, emergency response, and material reserves. And those lie the potential for future investment and space for future development. We will step up our measures to address those short links, to elevate the quality and return of economic development. At the same time, we will step up monitoring, prediction, early warning, and policy research reserve. Introduce relevant policy at appropriate time, step up macro policy adjustment to ensure steady and sound development of the economy and the society. I'm confident that as long as we unite together, implement and follow through on the essential work decisions, expand domestic effective demand, and to introduce the right policy, we can attain this year's economic and social development targets. Thank you.
Economic Daily. People now pay more attention to the stable economic performance and what measures have been put in place by the finance authorities to stabilize the economy.
Well, the epidemic is not only threatening people's life and health, it is also impacting the economy. Fiscal authorities are implementing earnestly the decisions made by the Central Party leadership and the State Council. We have been ensuring the capital and material supplies. At the same time, we are leveraging the role of fiscal policies in a targeted manner to cushion the negative implications on the economy. First, we provide tax and fee reduction by a large margin to industries hard hit, including transportation, catering, hospitality, and tourism. We have adjusted corporate income tax to provide timely support. For transportation and public transport services, express delivery, and other sectors that are important for people's livelihood, we introduce VAT waivers to lessen in a targeted way the burden of businesses and help them address or tide over this difficult time. Second, we have introduced general fee cut policy. We work with relevant authorities to introduce phase of preferential reduction and exemption of corporate contribution to social insurance and medical insurance, deferral of payment to the Health Provident Fund. The scope is big, policy is strong. On top of last year's social insurance contribution rate cut, this will help address the impact of the epidemic on businesses. Third area is that we have intensified support to businesses to maintain steady employment. We have been working with the Ministry of Social Human Resources to provide unemployment insurance and vocational training allowances to support businesses to keep more people on their payroll and do not let go people. At the same time, for the micro businesses and individuals, we have special policies to reduce their financing guarantee fees so as to address their the difficulties in accessing financing, affordable financing. these measures will play an important role in elevating confidence of businesses. Going forward, the results will further be felt. We will continue to implement General Secretary Xi Jinping's important instructions on fighting the epidemic and promoting social and economic development, intensify the counter-cyclical macro-policy adjustment. Fiscal policy will be more proactive to ensure that the decisions of the Central Party leadership and the State Council will be implemented 100%. One, we will implement the already introduced interest rate subsidy, large-scale fee reduction, and deferral of payment so that these measures can produce notable results at an early date. At the same time, we will take more proactive measures with a stronger policy support to prevent the economy from sliding out of the reasonable range and preventing short-term impact from evolving into the longer-term trend. First, we will continue to introduce targeted and phased tax and fee reduction policy with the focus on some industries to help them resume production and help SMEs and micro businesses. Second, we will utilize the capital in stock of the central government departments to coordinate key spending on epidemic control, poverty reduction, and the building of a society with initial prosperity. Third, we will step up transfer payment, and we will give more preference to hardest hit localities to ensure that they can have enough money to pay wages and to keep operation and to ensure people's livelihood. Fourth, we will expand special bond issuance. The focus will be the key projects. We will guide localities to do good project reserve and preparation work so that the effective investment can be made. Through systematic planning, targeted implementation, and monitoring, we will fight the epidemic while advancing social and economic development to ensure that the huge potential and strong dynamism of the economy can be fully released so that this year's economic and social development targets can be met, so that this year we can build the society of initial prosperity in all respects and to win the battle against poverty. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. This question is for Mr. Liu Jun. We have noticed that because of the epidemic, some sectors and in particular SMEs are experiencing difficulty in getting enough labor. So what kind of impact will that have on employment and what measures will be put in place by the relevant authorities? Thank you for your interest. Employment has always been something that everyone cares about in society. After a comprehensive evaluation, we think the employment situation is stable on the whole. Last year, we created 13.52 million jobs in urban areas, the seventh year in which we kept above the target of 13 million. Last year's urban surveyed unemployment rate was 5.2%, which was kept below our projected target. Judging from the information in January this year, the main indicators for employment perform within the reasonable range, but the sudden outbreak of the epidemic will inevitably have a big impact on our economy and employment. We see that companies delayed their restart of operation. The workers' return to their work was also delayed. Tourism, catering, and other services sector and the SMEs are facing more difficulties. Market hiring is dropping, which will make it harder for university graduates and rural migrant workers to find jobs. The structural mismatch between employees and employers it's more prominent. All these have brought challenges to us. But we should also see that the impact of the epidemic is temporary and manageable on the whole. The fundamentals for sound economic growth have not changed, and the fundamentals for overall stability in employment have not changed. Our economy is big. The market is enormous. It has strong resilience and potential, and in particular, the economy has been a bigger driver for employment and job creation, which provides good underpinnings for stable employment. In particular, the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, pays great attention to employment and gives top priority to stable employment. We have implemented the employment first policy and taken a series of policy measures. We are confident that we will be able to ensure overall stability in employment this year. Our priority will be given to the following aspects. First, expand job creation. Expanding job creation will be a top priority in economic and social development. All types of policies must play their role in promoting job creation. We will strengthen the synergy between economic policies and employment policies and support major job creators such as services sector, SMEs, micro-businesses, and labor-intensive industries. We will encourage innovation by business startups, facilitate new forms of employment, and support flexible employment through various channels. Second, ensure stable employment. We must take three-pronged measures to ease burden, ensure stable employment, and expand job creation at the same time. We will implement policies of provisional reduction and exemption of corporate contributions to social insurance, unemployment insurance premium rebates, and employment subsidies. In particular, we need to help the SMEs through the difficulty and ensure stable employment. Third is facilitate and support corporate recruitment and workers' return. We need to coordinate work relating to students' graduation, hiring, and admission. We will conduct online hiring, open online classes for job seekers, and encourage employees to postpone their interviews and contract signing time to help university graduates to graduate smoothly and find jobs at an early date. We will encourage rural migrant workers to return to their work at an early date. We will provide city-to-city service to facilitate workers to return to their work. We will implement a 24-hour mechanism to ensure sufficient labor for key companies. There must be well-aligned collaboration between labor exporting and importing regions, and in particular give priority to those laborers in poverty to return to work. And we will support companies and workshops in the poverty reduction endeavor to create more local jobs. All in all, we need to make sure that facilitation and support is differentiated and targeted. Fourth, promote a match of supply and demand in terms of employment services. We will conduct online campaigns to provide dynamic information on job vacancies and ensure non-stop employment facilitation and online hiring. We will step up training for laborers, open online training platforms free of charge, and speed up the provision of trainings for those skills and workers that are urgently in need. Fifth, help the vulnerable through a safety net. We must extend employment aid to those having difficulty finding jobs because of the epidemic and provide public welfare jobs to those unable to find jobs on their own. We need to speed up the online registration of the jobless and ensure unemployment insurance cover and benefit all those in need. Those hard-hit areas must create provisional public welfare jobs and use the unemployment insurance fund to issue allowances to the jobless. Employment is pivotal to people's well-being. It has a bearing on each and every household and the long-term stability and development of the country. We will act on the instructions of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council to coordinate epidemic containment and economic and social development, make sure every policy brings warmth to the recipients and every measure delivers, and do our very best to help those in need and ensure stable employment. Thank you. Next question.
谢谢主持人。你好，新加坡联合早报提问。
联合早报。
我们想问一下，中国会不会出台强刺激的货币或者是
Will China
财政政
produce
策来
strong
缓解这个
stimulus,
疫情
monetary
对经
and
济的
fiscal
冲击？
policies
谢
to
谢。
cushion the effect of the epidemic on the economy? Mr. Deputy Governor, Mr. Chen, please. Thank you for your question. Fiscal and monetary policies do play an important role in offsetting the impact of the epidemic on the economy. Since the outbreak, the People's Bank of China have acted on the instructions of the Central Party leadership, follows the principle of flexible and appropriate monetary policy, and we have introduced a series of policy measures. First, we have provided more than expected liquidity to ensure the banking system and the enough liquidity on the financial markets to stabilize market expectations. Second, we have established a 300 billion low-cost special loan for banks to support those key companies fighting the epidemic. This mechanism will provide targeted support to them. Third, the PBOC and five other agencies have put in place relevant measures to produce synergy to support the resumption of work and production. So far, these policy measures have produced a positive result. Going forward, the People's Bank of China will implement the instructions of General Secretary Xi Jinping to make the prudential monetary policy more flexible and appropriate. We will work on the following three aspects. First, we will continue to ensure reasonably sufficient liquidity. We will make good use of policies and policy tools to guide market interest rates. Second, we will make better use of structural monetary policy tools. On one hand, we must deliver on the 300 billion special loan scheme to extend all the credit to those in need. Nearly 1,000 companies have already accessed the credit line, and we will ensure that we will deliver more on that. On the other hand, we also need to make good use of existing general benefit loans, such as loans for farmers and small businesses and rediscount and other policy tools. And recently, we will conduct dynamic adjustment to the targeted RRR cut so that more banks up to bar will be able to receive the policy support. Third, we need to leverage the supporting role of policy-based banks. The three policy-based banks have taken the initiative to take measures, and these measures have produced good results. Going forward, the People's Bank of China will intensify our support to these three policy-based banks. We will support the NDB, the Exim Bank, to expand their support to foreign trade companies, and the Agricultural Development Bank to extend support to the full hog production chain. All these measures are now being formulated, and they will be introduced at a fast pace. We have ample room in terms of monetary policy, and we have enough in our toolkit. We are confident that we have the ability to win this overall, the all-out battle against the epidemic and support the orderly resumption of work and production. Anything to add from the finance authorities?
In answering the previous question, I touched upon that from two aspects. First, to implement the already existing incentives. And at the same time, we follow closely the economic performance, and when necessary, we will make our fiscal policy more proactive and introduce further measures and policies. Thank you. Next question.
I have a question about your support measures for small and medium-sized enterprises. What extra will you be doing to help small companies in China deal with both the supply shocks that they can't get what they need and the demand shock that they can't sell to their customers? And Deputy Governor of the PBOC, Yifei, said recently that the tolerance for non-performing loans, especially from small companies, will be increased. How high will you increase the tolerance for those kind of loans? Thank you.
请翻译一下。
我是来自彭博社的记者，我有2个问题。第一个问题是关于支持中小企业方面，疫情对中小企业影响巨大，国家会采取什么样的政策去支持小企业，尤其是帮助他们去应对供给方面以及产出方面所遇到的困难？另外一个问题，陈行长，您之前提到过，将会针对中小企业容许更高的不良贷款率。那么可能会容许到什么水平？谢谢。
田总先回答，让陈行长再回答。
好，谢谢这位记者的提问。这个党中央和国务院高度重视中小企业的健康发展，要求加大对重点行业和中小企业的帮扶力度。
The central party leadership attaches great importance to the support of SMEs, and it has instructed that policies must go faster than difficulties to mitigate the impact of the epidemic on companies, especially SMEs. The leading group on promoting the development of SMEs has played an important role in this, and my department has played a very important coordinating role. We have put in place supportive measures and policies. In particular, on the 29th, we formulated a notice on helping SMEs through difficulties caused by the COVID-19 outbreak. Formulated on the 9th of February, specified the support for companies to resume their work and production in an orderly way, including fiscal, financial, innovation-related support, public service, and coordination-related support. There are 20 measures, and which was mentioned by the Finance Authority and People's Bank of China just now. SMEs are experiencing difficulties, and thanks to the support of local governments and other agencies, the resumption rate is rebounding, close to 30%. Overall, SMEs are facing difficulties in the 5 aspects. The first is difficulty in restarting their operation. Local governments, in order to ensure epidemic containment, have required the companies to submit a large amount of approval materials. And second, difficulty in accessing enough labor. Disruption in transport and population movements have caused them difficulty. Third is in terms of industrial chain. So the raw materials cannot come in and the finished products cannot be shipped out. There is no synchronized resumption across the industrial chain, which make it more difficult for companies to operate normally. Fourth, difficulty in financing. SMEs are under a lot of pressure in terms of financing. Their non-elastic cost continues, but yet they are under more financial distress. But I think this distress will be mitigated as more policies roll out. Fifth, it's in terms of the delivery of their orders. They are at a risk of defaulting. So overall, they face a lot of challenges. And the Ministry of Information and Industrial, the MIIT, will act on the instructions made by General Secretary Xi Jinping and the Central Party leadership, and together with all members under the State Council Leading Group on Promoting the Development of SMEs, to implement various policy measures supporting SMEs. First is region-specific support measures in order to increase the resumption rate through coordination with all relevant agencies and departments, to encourage the synchronized resumption throughout the industrial chain, because the provision of raw materials affect the operation of businesses. So synchronized resumption is key. Second, we need to take concrete measures to ensure that preferential financial and fiscal benefits will be extended to those in need, including the provisional exemption of corporate contributions to old age pensions, unemployment, and workplace safety insurance schemes. This will help mitigate the fiscal pressure, financial pressure on the companies. We will work with relevant agencies to address the prominent issues companies face. In particular, the provision of protective materials and difficulties in logistics. This will be done under the interagency task force, and all departments under the task force are working in close collaboration to ensure necessary supplies and relevant support measures. We will leverage the role of large enterprises under central jurisdiction to play their role throughout the industrial chain. Because of their competitiveness, they will spearhead the recovery of their respective industries. We will help SMEs in terms of their epidemic control and prevention alongside the resumption of work and production. There has already been a guideline on epidemic control in the course of resumption of work to prevent the spread of the virus in the process. We also need to help reduce the burden on SMEs I believe with our concerted efforts, with all the measures, the SMEs will be able to restart their operation in a smooth manner. With help from the government, with their own efforts, these companies will be able to survive this difficult time. Thank you. Next question, please. Phoenix TV. On foreign trade, what is the impact of the epidemic on foreign trade, and what measures will be taken to offset this impact, and how to ensure stable foreign trade this year?
Thank you. As the one of the troika, foreign investment has been given priority by the State Council, and it is watched by the general public. As things stand, the impact of this epidemic is only a temporary and short-term. Our foreign trade is resilient and competitive. Our companies are innovative, and they are strong in exploring new markets. So the upward trend of China's foreign trade will not change. Since the outbreak, MOFCOM has been implementing the central leadership's decisions and to direct the commerce departments across the country to monitor the epidemic and help businesses. There are some common challenges. Some businesses are facing difficulties of taking orders, fulfilling the orders, and the restrictions on shipping. So the situation is quite challenging. To help businesses go back to work, to ensure orders, fulfillment of contract and market, MOFCOM has introduced some measures to keep foreign trade and investment stable. This morning, we have further introduced policy measures to urge the businesses back to work. We have issued a further notice. The fiscal, financial, banking and credit insurance sectors have also introduced policy measures. 16 subnational localities in Guangdong, Zhejiang, Henan, Gansu have their own measures introduced to contain the epidemic at the same time and to promote resumption of work. While Guangdong, Jiangsu, Beijing, Shanghai, Sichuan resumption rate is going back rather quickly. In Zhejiang, over 90% of businesses exporting $10 million of goods are back to work. For example, in Yiwu, in order to meet the returned employees' need, they have chartered planes, trains, and buses to get back those workers to factories. A lot of localities have introduced targeted and effective measures. For example, Suzhou has been supporting Import and Export Bank to set aside emergency response fund. At the central government level, the central bank is providing better and more loans to businesses. In some localities, the government are encouraging businesses to participate in overseas fairs and exhibitions to explore market. We will further implement the central government's decision based on, or as directed by the decisions made at yesterday's meeting on keeping foreign trade stable. We will continue to step up epidemic control at the same time to keep foreign trade stable with the following focus. First, to further enrich policy toolkit. The focus will be given to export tax rebate, financing for trade, export credit, and trade facilitation. Second, to better explore international market. For key markets along the Belt and Road, we will have targeted measures to ensure trade facilitation. Third, to help businesses. We will summarize and disseminate good practices to stabilize supply chain, and we will provide policy and legal assistance. Fourth, to support cross-border e-commerce and market procurement and other new types of foreign trade, and to accelerate international marketing network. Fifth, deepening reform and opening up, and to expand import. We will make sure the success of the third China International Import Expo and to set up import innovation demonstration zone. Sixth, we will continue with communication and coordination with partners, call on WTO members to quickly remove unnecessary restrictions, create a sound international trade environment, and work together to ensure global supply chain stability. In the following weeks and months, based on the decision of the central government and party leadership, we will continue to fight the disease, and we will endeavor to attain the overall social and economic development goals, promote high-quality development of trade. Thank you.
To mitigate the difficulty in accessing affordable financing by SMEs and other companies has been a priority in the work of the People's Bank of China. Since the outbreak, the sectors that are worst hit are labor-intensive sectors and traditional services. The financial sectors are extending their full support to these sectors in terms of epidemic containment and work resumption. Among the 30 measures we introduced, a lot of them are about supporting SMEs, asking financial institutions to increase their credits to these companies, and they should not stop the credit line arbitrarily. And for those companies who are experiencing difficulty in repaying their loans, there can be a grace period for them. In terms of the 300 billion special loan, I checked the list of those recipient companies, and most of them are SMEs. Going forward, in terms of the providing financial support to SMEs, our work will be focused on the following aspects. First, we will support commercial banks in funding SMEs. In addition to what I have mentioned, the RRR cuts and loans for farmers and small businesses and rediscount, we will also step up special bond issuance for SMEs, allow commercial banks enough source of funding for such programs. Second, we will support the 3 policy-based banks, as I just mentioned, to support relevant companies, including for companies involving in spring agriculture and the hog production chain, and for sectors who have been hit by the epidemic and SMEs, if they are behind their payments, we allow them to suspend repayment, and in terms of the categorization of their loans, we will also give preferential consideration to them. We will also instruct commercial banks to make good use of fintech capabilities that China has to increase risk control capabilities in order to minimize any increase of NPL. I must point out that in 2019, the average NPL ratio for commercial banks was only 1.86%. For SMEs, the figure was slightly higher than the average, but far below the 5% regulatory criterion. And the provisional coverage rate for commercial banks in China is as high as over 80%, so they are well resourced and funded to cope with the impact of this epidemic on the economy and on SMEs? Thank you. Next question, please.
China
News Service. What impact will the epidemic have on ensuring stable foreign investment, and what measures has the Ministry of Commerce taken in this regard?
Since the outbreak, there has been some restrictions on people's movement and logistics and shortage in supplies of raw materials. So foreign businesses are facing some difficulties. At the same time, a lot of foreign investors are still waiting to see how the situation will evolve. So in the first quarter, there will be a notable impact on foreign investment, but it is only temporary and it's controllable. In the long run, the competitiveness and advantage of attracting foreign investment have not changed. Most multinationals still have confidence in China, and their strategies have not changed. China will remain a popular destination. To follow up on the central government's plan, MOFCOM has introduced 2 policy papers to guide Commerce Affairs departments to help foreign investors and foreign businesses to keep their production stable and to step up services and to attract more foreign investment and minimize the impact. These measures are producing results. Shanghai, Shandong, and Hunan, over 80% of major foreign businesses are back to work. In Shandong, 32 auto parts producing companies invested by the ROK are back to operation before February the 15th. Yesterday, General Secretary Xi Jinping chaired a meeting and gave important instructions on the issue of foreign investment. MOFCOM has been studying the instructions and will follow through on them. Our focus will be in the following 6 aspects to minimize its impact for the whole year. First, to encourage more foreign businesses to resume operation in an orderly way. Priority will be given to key businesses to resume their supply to keep global supply chain stable. Second, provide better services for major projects. We will follow closely ongoing major projects under discussion and to advance major projects so that they can be signed and concluded. Third, expand foreign investment access. Elevate the utilization of foreign investment in telecommunications, medical services, education, culture, and other areas. Shorten the negative list of the national and free trade pilot zones across the country. Fourth, expand platform for openness to guide free trade pilot zone to conduct pilot programs so that they can play their role in keeping foreign trade and foreign investment stable. Fifth, step up the protection of the lawful rights and interests of foreign investors to strengthen the service system. Sixth, to improve investment environment for foreign investors, to implement the foreign investment law and its implementation regulations.
Last 2 questions, please. From Reuters. What about the fiscal situation in the worst hit provinces? How will they handle the excessive fiscal burden this year? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, fiscal authorities have been acting in strict accordance with the central government's plan to provide fiscal resources to the work. 2 insurances. First, to ensure that the people will not worry about the issue of cost and not go to hospitals. And second, to ensure that localities will not see their treatment and containment efforts affected because of the issue of cost. As of yesterday, a total of 99.5 billion yuan were allocated. 25.52 billion yuan were from the central fiscal resources. In addition, we have been working to ensure the supply of key materials, to provide more incentives to medical workers, to encourage tax cut for social donations, and we have opened green track or fast track for government procurement. We have noted that as a result of the epidemic, there are some provinces that are hardest hit by the epidemic, and their fiscal income and spending are being affected. Therefore, fiscal authorities of various localities have been reducing general spendings and mobilizing resources, optimizing spending structure. The priority is given to epidemic control and mitigation. At the same time, we'll coordinate fiscal revenue and spending to ensure fiscal sustainability. In terms of the central fiscal budget, first, there will be more transfer payment to localities. There will be more general transfer payment, and such transfer payment increase will outstrip that of the central spending increase, so that local fiscal pressure can be eased. Second, to accelerate the delivery of funds. For example, in order to support localities to control the epidemic and ensure wages, operation, and people's livelihood, recently the central budget has allocated resources in advance, 70 billion RMB for balancing transfer payment, and 40.6 billion yuan for county-level financial pool safeguard. Third, to step up the national treasury management and adjustment, we follow closely local capabilities in Hubei and other most affected regions. Step up coordination of funding and financial resources so that there will be enough money for the control and containment of epidemic and their timely delivery. The epidemic will for sure have some implications to fiscal soundness and the economy, but basically the fundamentals are still sound. Economic development is the source for financial strength. We are confident that as the situation turns for the better, with the resumption of work and production, with the strong support of the economy, there will be steady operation of the fiscal budget across the country. Thank you.
Last question, please.
您好，我是中国日报社的记者。
China Daily.
We've
learned that this epidemic does have a big impact on the economy of China. How will this epidemic affect China's financial openness? Thank you, China Daily, for your interest. Openness is a fundamental policy of China. Inclusiveness has been a fine tradition of the Chinese nation. Ever since 2018, the financial system is acting on the decisions made by General Secretary Xi Jinping in his Boao speech, and the intensity is growing. Most of the measures have already been put in place, and a few others are now awaiting relevant revisions of laws and regulations, and then they will be put in place. Since the outbreak, the financial system is extending full support to epidemic control and orderly resumption of work, and on the other hand, we are not allowing any let-up in financial openness. For example, on the 11th of February, together with the CBIRC, we approved the application of a joint venture by MasterCard and Wangyuan, or NUCC. And going forward, we will work with relevant agencies to speed up the building of Shanghai into a global financial hub and in supporting the Yangtze River Delta integration through finance, we have rolled out 30 measures, and 11 of them are targeted at high-level financial openness in Shanghai. The international community watches closely and highly commends China's continuous financial openness amid epidemic prevention and control. This year is also an important year in terms of our financial openness because the deadline for lifting foreign ownership cap for insurance, fund management companies, and futures companies was moved up from 2020 to this year.